The Adventures of William Bruce. First American Father. Chapter 1. With what? The Albin Farm, 7 miles west of Old Town, Shenandoah Valley, Virginia colony. A cold November morn, 1739. Mary is perched on the edge of her bed, staring at Doc wide-eyed. She takes a moment to process his words, asking herself if she heard him right. With what? Just then, William mindlessly bursts through the bedroom door. Embarrassed, he throws his hands up to apologize, just in time to hear Doc exclaim, "I said, you're with child." When Doc's words cross his ears, William drops his hands and turns to Doc, who smiles with a raised brow and a wink. When it hits him, he slowly turns to his Scottish princess. "You mean I'm gonna be a dog?" Eyes welling, Mary nods, a tear slipping from each of her eyes and down her cheek. The Bonner Farm, just outside of Old Town, Shenandoah Valley, Virginia colony. Spring, 1740. Since the Bonner Farm sits halfway between the Albins and Bruces and is closer to Doc McHaney's, Mary accepts Bruce's offer to stay in William's old cabin on their farm for the final weeks of her pregnancy, enabling her mother, Berta, and Flora to more easily care for her until the baby arrives. During this time, William travels back and forth between their farm, where he cares for their animals, and the Bonners to be with his very pregnant wife, and back again to watch over the farm at night. The Albin Farm, early morning, Friday, April 16th, 1740. William is up before dawn, dressed and enjoying a cup of coffee and some eggs, when there comes a pounding on his cabin door. As he stands to answer, the door flies open, and standing in the threshold, looking frazzled and exhausted, is his old employer and dear friend, Bruce Bonner, better known as Beebe. Shocked, the Irishman welcomes the old Scot, gasping, "Beebe! Holy smokes! What in blazes are you doing here? Hell, the sun ain't even rose yet." Wheezing, Beebe bends over, hands on his knees. "Phew! I'm bloody firebuckled." Catching his breath, he stands upright. "'Tis time! Grab your shite! We've to go! Now!" "Time? Aye, you daft idiot! The baby! 'Tis coming!" "Now?" "Nay, lad, this afternoon. I just rode through the dark from Doc McHaney's to give you a heads up." "Wait, what? What is it with you bloody Irishmen? Always needing everything to be spelled out for you. The baby! 'Tis coming. Doc is already on his way. We've to go. Now." William pauses for a moment. Smiling, he wags a finger at him, shaking his head. "Now you see there? You almost had me, you old coot." "Are you out your face? What in blazes are you talking about? The baby is coming. We've to go." William sits down his coffee, chuckling. "Nice try, Beebe, but you're not goading me into another one of your silly pranks. I've known you too long." As William stuffs another forkful of eggs into his face, Beebe's jaw drops and he gasps, "Holy Christ! You think this is a joke?" "Beebe, dinna be daft. You're just no fooling me." "Daft?" Still standing in the doorway, Beebe crosses his arms and barks, "Listen, you hard-headed buffoon! This is no bloody joke. Mary, your wife, is having your baby right now, with you or without you. Now, pull your head out your arse and grab your shite. We've to go." With a stern brow, Beebe points at the door and William drops his fork. "Bloody hell! You're serious?" "No shite! Now, let's get going before you miss it." William throws his hands to his temples excitedly. "I'm having a baby!" "Nay, lad, Mary's having a baby, and if you dinna hurry, she'll be having it without you." William grabs Martha and his broad-brimmed hat and bolts out the door. Riding on wings of angels, they burst through William's old cabin door 17 minutes later. As they enter, they find Mary's mother, Sarah, Beebe's wife, Berta, and Doc McCaney coaching Mary through her contractions. William gasps. "How's she doing, Doc?" Frustrated, Mary snaps. "William Bruce Sullivan! I'm right bloody here, you daft prick!" Doc turns to him and smiles. "She's doing fine." Standing in the doorway behind William, Beebe holds his laughter. William, meanwhile, walks over and kneels on the fur-covered dirt floor beside Mary's bed, taking her hand and whispering, "I'm here for you, Mary Bear." Mary squeezes his hand and groans. "Oh, William, it bloody hurts." The pain hits her again and she cries, "Oh!" From the foot of the bed, Doc says, "You're doing fine, Mary. Just keep up your breathing, and this will all be over soon." Mary nods, eyes squinting, her body covered with sweat. "Beebe, why don't you and William go next door and fetch us all some nice hot tea? I'll have one of the ladies call you if you're needed." Beebe raises a brow, then nods, knowing Doc really just wanted to get them out of the room. "Aye, Doc. A spot of tea is just what we need after that brisk ride." He turns to his old farmhand with a wave. "You coming?" Running his fingers gently over Mary's matted golden locks, he tenderly kisses her forehead, then stands and turns to Beebe. "A spot of tea it is, old friend." Mary squeezes his hand, and he squeezes back with a wink before following the old Scot out the door. Next door in the Bonner cabin, they stoke the fire and put on a kettle for their tea. Staring at the table in front of him, William's head pops up and he sighs. "I wonder where Sir John is." "Keep thee head, lad. He'll be here soon enough." No sooner had Beebe gotten the words out when John Robert burst through the door. Eyes fixed on William, the old Scot throws his head back as he turns to the door. "Speak, o' the devil!" Brushing his arms off as he enters, Sir John freezes in place and turns to the sarcastic old coot with a stank-eyed glare. William leaps to his feet, breaking the stare down. Reaching out, he shakes his father-in-law's hand. "Glad you made it, Sir John." "I wouldn't miss it for the world, young squire," the proud papa says with an ear-to-ear grin. "Well, it took you long enough," Beebe scoffs. Still brushing off the cold, the nobleman glares at him through the tops of his eyes. "Shut it, dunderhead, or I'll gie you a skip-it lug." Beebe throws his head back, letting out a laugh. John Robert throws him a dismissive wave, then turns to William. "So, tell me, young squire, how's she doing?" William shrugs. "I dinna ken." "Dinna ken? What do you mean, dinna ken? Is she fine or no?" Placing a palm on Sir John's chest, Beebe answers on behalf of his old farmhand. "No to worry. She's fine, she's fine. You ken how these things go. On me word, Sir John, she's fine, and she's in good hands." John Robert takes a deep breath and nods. Gathering himself, Beebe asks, "Where's Flora?" John Robert throws a thumb in the direction of William's old cabin. "She went to help with Mary straight away. Thank you for sending her to fetch me." "You may be out your head, but you've a good heart, Bruce Bonner." Blushing, Beebe rolls his head. "Well." Holding up a hand, Sir John bellows, "Don't say anything, please. You'll ruin it. And dinna worry, I'll not tell anyone. Your secret's safe with me." Smiling contently, Beebe sighs, then picks up a cup and saucer. "I ken it is, John Robert." "Spot of tea?" Sir John smiles and nods. "Aye, thank you." Moments later, the three Virginians are sipping tea on the front porch and puffing pipe smoke into the cool morning air. As morning fades into afternoon, there is still no news from the cabin next door, save the muted grunts, screams, and hollers from Mary. Looking to divert their attention, Sir John pulls the pipe from his lips and asks, "So, have you decided on any names?" Snapping away from Mary's muted shrieks, the soon-to-be first-time father replies, Oh, sure. With a shrug, Sir John snarls. Well? BB slaps his Irish friend on the back. Bloody hell, lad! Snap out of it! What names have you? William does a little shake of his head. Oh, sorry. Depends on whether 'tis a lad or a lass. Well, no shite, BB grumbles. It's just that I dinna ken if Mary... Come now, young squire, you needn't chuck yourself with us. After all, BB and me, we're family. Nervously, I think I should check on Mary. In unison, the men shout, No! Patting his shoulder, BB professes, She's fine. Now, tell us the names. William straightens himself and is just about to answer when a loud holler comes from William's old cabin. William! It is Miss Berta. William leaps to his feet. The two old Scots follow in his wake as they scramble over to the other cabin. Doc is standing at the foot of the bed, and he turns to them as they enter. "'Tis time. William, come hold your sweeting's hand, and tell her how much you love her. You two, come hold her legs for me. She's exhausted." Doc turns to Mary's mother. "Sarah, the blanket if you please." As Sarah hands Doc the blanket, the three men jump into action. Holding Mary's hand, William gently caresses her forehead, whispering sweet nothings, convinced she hasn't heard a word he has said. As he watches Mary reel about like a woman possessed, he thinks to himself, "Who are you, and what have you done with my bonny bride?" Opposite him, Sarah sits rubbing Mary's left arm and caressing her shoulder. Meanwhile, Doc and Berta continue to coach Mary through what they hope is the home stretch, with Mary's best friend Flora Jean awaiting further instructions and trying not to laugh at her father and Sir John struggling with Mary's legs. Standing at the ready, Doc declares, "All right, Mary, you're doing good. Just keep pushing, lass. Your baby's almost here." "Good! I can see the baby's head." Pausing, "Lord Almighty, this child has more hair on his head than me." Sarah and John Robert peer in for a closer look before exchanging a smiling glance. BB, on the other hand, just closes his eyes, making faces. But William never flinches. He is steadfast, holding his beloved's hand and petting her forehead. "It's all right, Mare Bear. You're doing great." She manages a brief smile before cutting off the circulation in his hand as she rolls into another anguishing contraction. Like a quarterback looking over his center, Doc peers over Mary's belly and looks her straight in the eyes. "All right, lass. We're almost there. Now, when I say push, I need you to muster every ounce of your strength and push as hard as you can. Can you do that?" Exhausted and breathing heavily, Mary gives a determinate nod. "Good! Now, when I say push, push as long and hard as you can. Just one last time, okay?" Impatient now, she throws him another nod. From behind Doc, Flora cheers. "One last good push, Mary. You can do this." Doc repositions himself. "Okay, Mary, we're going to bring this child into the world now. Are you ready?" Mary nods her head emphatically through the pain. "Good! Ready? Now! Push! Push, lassie! Push!" With that, Mary grunts hard and loud as she screams into a mighty push. Long, hard, and loud. "Keep pushing, lassie! Almost there!" Doc commands. Reaching deep, Mary gives it all she has left, praying this will be the final push. Helping the little one into the world with his hands, Doc receives the newborn child. As he does, Mary falls back on the bed, exhausted. As Doc cradles the tiny infant in his hands, he moves the baby to the blanket, then spanks him gently upon his bottom until he cries. As the young lad proclaims his presence to the world, Doc wraps him in the blanket's comforting protection. Feeling warm and safe, the little one's cries slowly dissipate. Sarah reaches down, touching her grandchild for the very first time as she wipes him clean, breathing, "Praise Jesus! He's beautiful!" Berta leans in, her eyes quickly welling. Absolutely precious! There's no other way to say it. Breaking the zen, but careful not to say the wrong thing, Doc points to a knife glistening at him from the side table. John Robert, if you please, kindly hand me that shiny thing winking at you from the table. Sir John turns, spotting the blade. As he slides the knife into the palm of Doc's hands, they exchange a nod. With a smile, Doc turns back to Mary and her newborn. Save Mary and her baby, all are silent as a few seconds pass. Then, Doc turns back to Sir John, holding the umbilical cord, and the room lets out a collective sigh. As Doc steps away, Sarah sweeps her newborn grandson from the foot of the bed, cradling his tiny swaddled body in her welcoming arms. Moving to the head of the bed, she smiles at him through tear-filled eyes before gently laying him upon his mother's chest. Stepping away, she cries, I am so proud of you, Mary. He's just so beautiful, perfect, with 10 tiny little fingers and 10 tiny toes. With a tilt of her head, she reaches out, giving her daughter's hand a proud squeeze. Mary's porcelain face, a hot mess of tears, sweat, and exhaustion, smiles back at her, returning the squeeze. Meanwhile, Doc is standing at the side table cleaning his instruments and packing his bag, all the while fixed on William, Beebe, and John Robert, waiting for the reality to sit in. Head down, he peers out the corner of his eye and says, Maybe I haven't said it yet, but it's a boy! It's a boy! They shout, throwing their hands in the air and grabbing their noggins, backslapping and hugging. Sir John steps over to his son-in-law, firmly shaking his hand while patting his shoulder proudly. Well done, young squire! You did your family proud! William gives his hand an appreciative squeeze. Thank you, Sir John. As Sir John steps away, Beebe follows suit, shaking William's hand like he was shaking the hand of his own son. Smiling like a proud grandpa, he whispers, Nicely done, lad. Leaning in, Sir John takes his daughter's hand gently in his. You've done us proud, Mary Elizabeth. Placing a hand on her shoulder, he adds, But if what Gunsta foretold on your wedding day is true, this young lad is only the beginning. Exhausted, she looks back at him smiling, nestling her newborn son upon her chest. Turning her gaze to the baby in her arms, she whispers, Well, hello, little man. You should ken. Me name is Mary, and I'm your ma. Still at her bedside, William whispers, That's the most beautiful sight I've ever seen. Mary looks at him, smiling with her eyes. 'Tis true. You and our son, as bonny a sight as I'll ever see. Stroking her hair, he adds, You did good, Mare Bear, and you made me the proudest man in all the world. He's a handsome little squire, just like his da, she insists, handing William his first son. William takes the lad proudly in his arms and brings him to his face, kissing him on each of his chubby little cheeks, forehead, and eyes. Then proudly he lifts the little lad into the air, proclaiming, We shall raise this child to be a good man. This I swear in the name of our Lord. Lowering the lad, he turns, handing him to Sir John. John Robert takes the lad wide-eyed, gazing upon the tiny little face staring back at him. So, tell me, young squire, what's your name? Then turning to his parents, he waits for an answer, first at William, then at Mary Elizabeth. Mary and her husband exchange a look, and she nods. He gives her a warm smile, then turns to Sir John. We shall call him John, after his grandfathers, John Robert and Robert John. As the words wash over him, John Robert lets out a grateful gasp. Nearly bursting, the proud old Scot looks at him, hands over heart. Then he turns to his wife. Sarah nods, crying tears of joy. Sir John peers down at his namesake. Did you hear that? You're named after me, young squire. 'Tis a pleasure to meet you, Sir John. Me name is John Robert, and I'm your granda. Kissing the lad on his forehead, Sir John hands him to Sarah as the others look on. "And this, young squire, be your nana, Sarah." Sarah cradles him lovingly, kissing him about his head, face, arms, and fingers. All the while, William watches with wonder as they shower little John with their love. Duck, meanwhile, is giving the new mother one last once-over before heading out. Convinced she is stable and not in any post-delivery danger, Duck walks to the door and slips on his coat and hat. Taking his bag from the side table, he gives Flora some last-minute instruction. She nods, and he turns to the clan. "All right, folks. If you need me, you know where to find me." And with a nod at Mary, he winks. "Otherwise, I'll be popping by tomorrow to check on the both of you." And with bag in hand, he turns for the door. William stops him with a handshake. "Thanks, Doc." "Ah, you needn't thank me for delivering your son. God did that," he says with a twinkle in his eye. With a firm squeeze, William replies, "Aye, but that ain't what I'm thanking you for." Duck gives him a tilt of his head. "I'm thanking you because you've never let me down, and that means a lot, Doc. So I thank you." As their handshake concludes, Duck pats William's hand, then squeezes it firmly with both. "All in a day's work, Makwa. All in a day's work." As he shoots out the door, he shouts, "All right, folks. See you in the morn." April 16th, 1740, not 2 years removed from their glorious wedding, during which their faithful Shawnee friend Skiagunsta arrived with 5 white-tailed bucks, proclaiming each represented a blessing of a son to carry their family name. And now they have fulfilled the first leg of his prophecy. As William and Mary's first son, John is also the Alban family's very first American-born son. His birth, marking the beginnings of a new chapter in the Albans' American family saga, and solidifying William's role as my family's first American father. That summer, Lawrence Washington receives an officer's commission in the British Army with the newly formed American Regiment. Soon after, he finds himself preparing for war and is shipped out to the Caribbean. There, he fights in the War of Jenkins' Ear, proudly serving under Honorable Admiral Edward Vernon. His influence so profound that upon his return to Little Hunting Creek, Lawrence renames it Mount Vernon.